They thought she was just another poor village girl, obedient, silent, powerless. But when the kingdom's most admired maiden vanished on the eve of the royal festival, whispers spread like wildfire. What nobody knew was that her wicked stepmother had used forbidden magic to silence her forever by turning her into a goat. But this was no ordinary curse. What happened next would unravel a deadly plan to steal a prince's heart, expose a covenant of shadows, and prove that the smallest voice can shake a kingdom. Because sometimes the weakest-looking soul hides the fiercest fire, and sometimes the goat tied in the marketplace is not a goat at all, but destiny disguised. This is the story of how one stepmother's greed tried to steal a crown, and how the truth fought its way back into the light. Before we dive deeper into this epic tale, we'd love to know where you are watching from. Tell us in the comments. And if you love high-stakes fantasy filled with mermaids, magic, love, and sacrifice, don't just watch, be part of our adventure. Like this video, share it with someone who loves powerful stories, and hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow, we've got an extra special story lined up for you, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. The first rays of morning sun touched the rooftops of the village of Zabari. Smoke curled from the little mud kitchens as women lit their fires. The smell of burning wood and boiling yam filled the air. Chickens clucked in the courtyards, and goats bleated as they searched for grass. It was the start of another busy day. Inside one of the compounds, a young girl was already awake. Her name was Amara, and she was 19 years old. Her skin was the rich brown of the earth, and her eyes were wide and bright, though sadness often clouded them. She tied a faded wrapper around her waist and picked up a clay pot. Amara, a sharp voice called from inside the house. Yes, Mama Saad, Amara answered quickly. Have you swept the compound? Have you fetched water from the stream? Do you want me to shout until my throat breaks? Amara lowered her head. I am going now, Mama. She balanced the clay pot on her head and hurried through the compound gate. The red earth was cool beneath her bare feet. As she walked toward the stream, neighbors greeted her, smiling. Amara, good morning, one woman called. You look more beautiful every day. Prince Oba will surely see you at the festival. Amara smiled faintly, but she did not answer. Compliments were dangerous. If Mama Saad heard them, her anger would burn hotter than the sun. The stream was at the edge of the forest, where tall palm trees bent over the water. Amara set her pot down, knelt, and let the cool water fill it. For a moment, she closed her eyes and listened. The birds sang. The wind rustled the leaves. Here, away from the compound, she felt a little peace. But peace never lasted long. She carried the heavy pot back on her head, her neck straining under its weight. When she reached the compound, Mama Saad was waiting with her hands on her hips. Beside her stood Suwa, her daughter, who was about 20 years old. Suwa wore a bright yellow wrapper and many beads, though her face was plain and her eyes often darted with jealousy. She was eating hot stew with pieces of meat. Give me the water, Mama Saad snapped. And hurry, lazy girl. Do you want the whole compound to smell of dirt? Sweep this place. Wash the clothes. Pound yam for Suwa. Are you deaf? Amara set the pot down carefully and picked up the broom. Sweat already formed on her forehead though the day had barely begun. Suwa smirked at her. Amara, do not forget to scrub my sandals. Prince Oba must see me shining at the festival. Amara kept quiet. She swept, she washed, she pounded yam until her arms ached. The pestle was heavy, and sweat ran down her back. When she finished, Mama Saad gave her a small bowl of cold pap to eat. The pap was watery and sour. Meanwhile, Suwa ate yam with thick stew, licking her fingers. Amara's father, Okon, did not see these things. He left before sunrise to farm and returned late at night, tired and hungry. He trusted Mama Saad to care for his daughter, never knowing the truth. Amara loved her father too much to burden him with her pain. So she smiled when he was home, even though her heart was heavy like a stone. That night, as the moon rose above the trees, Amara sat quietly in the yard. She listened to the crickets singing and the distant beating of drums from another compound. Her hands were rough from washing, her back sore from pounding, but her mind was filled with dreams. She thought of her real mother, who had died when Amara was small. She remembered her gentle laugh and the way she sang lullabies while braiding Amara's hair. She wished she could feel that comfort again. Sua passed by, humming loudly. She wore another wrapper, this one red with golden designs. She twirled like a dancer, pretending the whole world was her audience. "Prince Obo will choose me," Sua said with a smug smile. "When I am queen, you will still be sweeping this compound." Amara did not answer. She lowered her eyes and kept quiet. But deep in her heart, she knew the villagers were right, many admired her, not Sua. And that was why Mama Sada's eyes burned with envy. Later, as the night grew darker, Amara lay on her mat inside the small room she shared with old pots and baskets. The moonlight crept in through the tiny window. She turned on her side, her stomach empty, her body aching. "God," she whispered softly. "Please give me strength. Please protect Papa. Please, let tomorrow be better than today." A sudden rustle came from outside, and she lifted her head. She thought she heard footsteps, soft and slow. Then came a low whisper, like women chanting in the distance. She sat up, her heart beating fast. What could it be? She pressed her face to the little window and peered out. In the pale moonlight, she saw shadows moving in the compound. Mama Sad, wrapped in a black cloth, was walking toward the backyard. 3 other women followed, also in black. They walked in a line, holding hands, their heads bent low. Amara's breath caught in her throat. Where were they going? What were they doing at such an hour? Curiosity pulled at her like a rope. She rose quietly from her mat, tied her wrapper tighter, and tiptoed to the door. She slipped out, careful not to make a sound. The night was cold, and the wind whistled through the trees. The shadows of the 4 women moved steadily toward the forest path. Amara's heart pounded. Something was not right. She followed them, her bare feet silent on the earth. The crickets stopped singing as if the night itself was holding its breath. And as she drew closer, the sound of chanting grew louder. Strange words. Dark words. Words she had never heard before. Her hands shook, but she kept going, hiding behind a tree. She leaned out just enough to see. The 4 women were standing in a circle around a small fire. Their faces looked strange in the flickering light. Mama Sada's eyes gleamed red. Amara gasped softly. She knew now that her life was about to change forever. The morning sun rose high above the hills, pouring golden light across the kingdom of Zubari. From far away, the palace stood tall, its red clay walls shining like fire under the sky. The roofs of the huts glittered with dew, and smoke lifted lazily into the air as women began to cook. The whole kingdom was alive with excitement. In just 3 days, the royal choosing festival would begin. It was the day every maiden dreamed of, the day Prince Obo would select his bride. All through the market square, people spoke of nothing else. Traders spread their wares, calabashes filled with palm oil, baskets of dried fish, cloths dyed in deep indigo and gold. Drummers tested their drums, their hands beating rhythms that echoed in the air. Dancers practiced in the corners, their beads rattling as they moved their hips. Children ran about, singing, "The prince will choose. The prince will choose." Every family with a maiden of age was busy preparing. Mothers polished beads, fathers saved coins for new wrappers, and girls whispered to one another about who the prince might pick. In the midst of this joy, Amara was bent over, pounding yam behind the compound. Her arms were tired, but Mama Sada's voice rang sharp as ever. "Amara. Pound faster. Do you think yam pounds itself?" "Yes, Mama Sad," Amara replied softly, lifting the heavy pestle again and again. Inside the main hut, Sua sat before a mirror made from polished bronze. She twisted beads into her hair and powdered her face with ground camwood. "Look at me, Mama," Sua said proudly. "When I stand in the palace square, Prince Obo will see my beauty first." Mama Sad clapped her hands. "Yes, my daughter. He will not even notice that wretched Amara." We will make sure of it. Sua giggled, her bracelets jingling. Amara has nothing. She wears faded wrappers and works like a servant. She will never sit beside a prince. Amara heard their laughter but kept her head down. Her hands hurt from pounding, yet she said nothing. Deep inside, though, she felt a strange stirring. The villagers often praised her, and she knew the prince had heard whispers of her name. But she never dared to dream too high. That afternoon, as she carried a calabash of water to the stream, some village women stopped her. Amara, one woman called with a smile. I saw you yesterday at the market. You shine like the morning sun. The prince will surely notice you. Another added, yes, Amara, when you walk, even the ground seems proud. If Prince Oba has eyes, he will choose you. Amara blushed. Please, don't say that. Mama Saad will hear and be angry. But the women laughed. Truth cannot be hidden, child. Beauty cannot be buried like yam in the ground. She walked away quickly, her heart racing. Their words filled her with both fear and hope. Meanwhile, at the royal palace, preparations were grand. The walls were painted fresh with red and white designs. Warriors sharpened their spears and polished their shields. Drummers carried large talking drums into the courtyard. The elders gathered under the shade of a giant irako tree, speaking in low tones. Prince Oba himself walked through the palace yard, tall and strong. His skin glowed bronze under the sun, and his eyes were sharp like the edge of a spear. He wore a leopard skin sash across his shoulder, a sign of his warrior strength. Behind him, servants carried baskets of kola nuts and palm wine for the festival. One elder bowed before him. My prince, soon the maidens will gather. You must choose wisely, for the queen will not only be your wife but the mother of this kingdom's future. Prince Oba nodded. I do not seek only beauty. Many are beautiful. I seek a woman whose heart is true. A woman who fears no fire, who will stand when others fall. The elder smiled. Then, my prince, may the spirits guide your eyes. As the palace prepared, Amara's father, Okon, returned from the farm. His feet were dusty, and sweat covered his brow. He carried a bundle of yams on his back. Amara, he called with a tired but loving voice. Amara hurried to him. Papa, let me help you. She took the heavy bundle from his back and set it down. He stroked her hair gently. You are a good daughter, Okon said. You remind me so much of your mother. If only she could see you now. His eyes grew wet, but he blinked away the tears. Do not worry, child. Better days will come. Amara smiled faintly. Yes, Papa. But in her heart, she wondered if those better days would ever arrive. That night, as the moon rose again, the village was full of music. Drums echoed, flutes sang, and maidens danced under the stars. Amara sat in the shadows, watching. Her heart longed to join, but Mama Sada's harsh command kept her away. Stay where you are, Amara. Mama Sad snapped. Do not think you will dance before the prince. That honor belongs to my daughter, Sua. Sua swayed in the moonlight, showing off her beads and wrappers. She twirled proudly, imagining herself already queen. Villagers clapped politely, though some whispered, Sua is bold, but it is Amara who carries grace. Amara lowered her eyes. She felt small, but somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice told her the festival would change her life. She did not know how, but the spirits were moving, and her destiny was drawing near. As the drums beat louder, Mama Saad looked at Amara with eyes full of fire. Hatred burned there, sharp and dangerous. In that moment, Amara shivered, though the night was warm. She could not explain it, but she knew something dark was coming. The morning in Zabari began with the sound of roosters crowing. The village stirred as women swept their compounds, men tied their hoes and cutlasses to their shoulders, and children chased chickens around the dusty paths. But in Okon's compound, the day started with shouts. Amara. Mama Sada's voice cracked like a whip. Lazy girl. Are you still lying there like a lizard in the sun? Get up. Amara hurried out of her small room, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Her wrapper was faded, patched in places from years of use. She bowed her head. Yes, Mama sobbed. I am awake. Awake. Humph. Then go and fetch water. The pot is empty, and my throat is dry. Sua needs warm water for her bath. Move quickly before I slap the slowness out of you. Yes, Mama, Amara whispered. She lifted the heavy clay pot and walked toward the stream. Sua was sitting in the courtyard, fanning herself lazily. She wore a shiny blue wrapper with golden edges and had threaded beads in her hair. She chewed roasted plantain and spoke with her mouth full. Amara, when you return, scrub my sandals. I must look bright for the festival. Prince Oba will not look twice at a maiden with dusty shoes. Amara nodded silently. She was used to such commands. She walked barefoot along the red path to the stream. The sun was already hot, though it was still early. Sweat gathered at her temples, but she kept going. At the stream, she knelt and dipped her pot into the cool water. The forest whispered around her, the chirping of birds, the rustle of palm fronds. For a brief moment, Amara felt peace. She looked at her reflection in the water. Her eyes were large and bright, her face soft but tired. Will my life always be like this? She murmured. But no one answered. When she returned, Mama Saad was scolding loudly. Amara, what took you so long? Do you think I will drink sand? Pour the water quickly. Amara obeyed. She poured water into a smaller pot, and Sua dipped her hands, washing her face slowly like a queen. Mama Saad turned and glared at Amara. Look at you, thin arms, dusty feet, rough skin. Who would ever want you? Do not think of standing before the prince. You will only shame this family. Sua laughed and added, Yes, Mama. Amara belongs with goats and chickens, not princes. Their laughter rang in the courtyard. Amara lowered her eyes. Her heart stung, but she said nothing. She swept the compound, pounded yam, and carried baskets until her back ached. Later that afternoon, Okon returned from the farm, carrying yams on his head. His face was tired but kind. Amara, he called warmly. Come and help your father. Amara ran to him, taking the load from his head. Papa, let me carry it. Okon smiled proudly. You are strong, my daughter. Just like your mother was. Amara's heart warmed at his words. But Mama Saad stepped out, clapping her hands in false cheer. My husband, welcome. Look at your fine daughter, Sua. She will soon make us proud before the prince. Sua twirled proudly, showing off her wrapper. Okon chuckled softly but said nothing. He did not notice Amara standing quietly in the shadows, her face hidden. That night, as the moon rose, Amara sat alone outside, her chores finally done. She leaned against the wall, watching the stars. She remembered her real mother, who used to sing sweet lullabies while braiding her hair. She missed her so deeply that tears filled her eyes. Inside the hut, Sua's laughter echoed. She was showing Mama Saad her new dance steps for the festival. The prince will look at me, Mama. He will see I am queenly. Amara cannot even dance like a proper girl. Mama Saad clapped and laughed. Yes, my daughter. The prince will see you. He must. And if anyone dares to stand in your way, I will deal with them. Her voice dropped, cold and sharp like a blade. Amara shivered outside. Something in Mama Saada's tone chilled her blood. It was not only anger. It was something darker, something that smelled of danger. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer. God, protect Papa. Protect me. Protect this house from evil. But as the night deepened, and the crickets sang louder, Amara felt the shadow of something she could not name. The festival was drawing near. And so was trouble. The night in Zabari was quiet, but it was not a peaceful quiet. The moon hung full and bright above the trees, throwing silver light across the land. The wind whistled low, bending the tall elephant grass. Even the crickets seemed to sing in whispers, as though they feared to disturb the night. Amara lay on her thin mat inside her small room. Sleep would not come. Her body ached from the day's work, but her mind was restless. She rolled from side to side, listening. Then she heard it. Shoo, shhh. The sound of feet moving softly across the courtyard. She held her breath. Slowly, she crept to the tiny window and peered out. Her heart almost stopped. Mama Saad was outside, wrapped in a black cloth. 3 other women moved with her, their heads also covered. They held hands and walked slowly toward the backyard. The moonlight glinted on their faces, making their eyes look strange and wild. Amara's stomach twisted. Where were they going at such a late hour? Without thinking, she rose and tiptoed to the door. She pushed it open quietly, careful not to make a sound. The night air was cold on her skin as she slipped outside. She followed them, her bare feet silent on the red earth. The women's voices rose and fell in low chants. Amara's heart pounded. The closer she came, the stronger the words became. They were not words she knew. It was not Yoruba, not Hausa, not Igbo. It was something else, something dark. At the edge of the compound, the women stopped. They gathered around a small fire, its flames licking the air. The smoke curled upward, carrying with it the smell of palm oil and burning feathers. Amara hid behind a tree, pressing her hands to her chest. One of the women raised a calabash filled with red liquid. Another sprinkled white powder into the fire. The flames hissed and turned blue. "It is time," one of them said in a low voice. "Yes," Mama Saad answered. Her face glowed with a terrible light. "A strong life must go. His spirit will bring us power. In 3 nights, my husband's soul will be ours." Amara's eyes widened. Her father. They wanted to sacrifice him. She gasped and stepped back, but her foot landed on a dry stick. Crack! The women froze. "Someone is here," one of them hissed. "Catch her!" Mama Saad shouted. Her voice was like fire. Amara's heart leapt. She turned and ran. She ran past the cassava plants, past the goat shed, her breath coming in sharp bursts. The ground seemed to pull at her feet, but she kept going. "Don't let her escape." Mama Saad screamed behind her. Amara's legs shook as she reached the back door of the compound. Just as her hand touched the wooden frame, a thick black smoke rose around her. It came from nowhere, swallowing the air. Her eyes burned. She coughed, stumbling. Shadows pressed against her from all sides. Through the smoke, Mama Saada's face appeared, angry, cruel, her eyes glowing red like hot coal. "You foolish girl," she hissed. "You should not have seen this." She raised her hand, and a flash of red light burst from her palm. Amara screamed. Then everything went dark. When Amara opened her eyes, the world was strange. The grass looked taller. The stones seemed bigger. Her body felt heavy and wrong. She tried to speak. But only a loud bleat came out. "Me." Amara froze. She looked down, and what she saw made her heart break. 4 legs. Hooves. Horns. She was no longer a girl. She was a goat. Her breath came in short gasps. She shook her head, trying to cry, but goats have no tears. She tried to speak again, but only another bleat escaped. From the shadows, Mama Saad stepped forward, smiling wickedly. "Now, let us see how you will tell your father," she whispered. Her laughter was sharp, like a knife cutting through the night. She tied a rope around Amara's neck and dragged her roughly toward the kitchen. Amara stumbled on her new legs, bleeding in despair. Mama Saad poured palm oil into a calabash, muttering strange words under her breath. Then she left Amara tied to a post in the cold night. Amara lay on the ground, her small goat body shivering. Her heart cried out inside her, but no one could hear. She thought of her father, sleeping peacefully, not knowing his own wife planned to end his life. She thought of her mother, Gone too soon, leaving her with this cruel woman. God, help me, she prayed silently. Do not let this be the end. The rooster crowed in the distance, announcing dawn. But for Amara, tied and helpless, the morning felt darker than the night. The rooster crowed loudly at dawn. Kokoroko. The sky turned pale gold as the sun rose over Zabari. Men stretched their arms and headed for their farms. Women tied wrappers and began to sweep their compounds. Children chased one another in the dust, laughing. But in Okon's compound, a different sight waited. Beside the kitchen, a small goat was tied to a wooden post. Its fur was short, its eyes wide and frightened. The rope cut against its neck as it shifted on the ground. But this was no ordinary goat. This was Amara, trapped by the curse of her stepmother. She tried to call out, but only a sad bleating came. Me. Inside her, her heart wept. Papa, it is me. Please, look at me. Okon's voice rose from the inner hut. Amara. My child, bring me water. The goat stirred. Amara's heart twisted with pain. She wanted to run into his arms, to tell him everything, to cry in his embrace. But her mouth opened only for another bleat. May. Amara. Okon called again, confused. He stepped outside, rubbing his eyes. But before he could look around, Mama Saad rushed forward, carrying a large basket. Go back inside, husband, she said quickly, forcing a smile. I have sent Amara to fetch firewood early. I will bring your water myself. Okon sighed, too tired to argue. He returned indoors. Mama Saada's smile vanished the moment he was gone. She bent over and yanked the rope. Stand up, foolish goat, she hissed. Today, you will leave this house forever. She forced Amara into the basket, covering her with cloth and pepper, as though hiding common goods. The basket was heavy, and Amara's little goat heart raced fast. She is taking me to the market. She will sell me like meat, Amara thought in despair. Mama Saad balanced the basket on her head and marched out of the compound, humming a tune. To neighbors, she looked like any ordinary trader, carrying pepper and fish to sell. Nobody guessed the truth. At the busy market, the air was filled with noise. Women shouted prices, men argued over yams, goats bleated, and chickens flapped wildly. The smell of palm oil, smoked fish, and sweat mixed in the hot air. Mama Saad set down her basket beside a stall. She pulled Amara out roughly and tied her to a short stick in the ground. Strong goat for sale, she shouted. Very fat, very healthy. Who will buy? Villagers stopped to look. Some pulled Amara's ears. Some patted her back. How much? One woman asked. 5 cowries, Mama Saad replied. Too much, the woman hissed, walking away. Amara bleated, shaking her head. May. She tried to speak, but no one understood. Mama Saad bent low and pinched her sharply. Keep quiet, useless girl, she whispered coldly. Hours passed. Many looked but did not buy. Then a man in worn clothes approached. His face was lined with hardship, and his hands were rough from labor. He carried a small sack of cowries. His name was Bako. This goat, he said slowly, how much? Mama Saada's eyes glinted. For you. 6 cowries. Bako frowned but nodded. I will take it. My family will eat well tonight. Amara's goat heart nearly stopped. No. He wants to kill me. Please, God, save me. Bako handed over the cowries. Mama Saad smiled, pleased with herself. She untied Amara and shoved the rope into his hand. Strong goat, she said. You will enjoy it. Bako said nothing more. He pulled Amara along the dusty path, away from the market. Mama Saad watched them go, her smile wide. In her heart, she thought, now the foolish girl is gone. My daughter Sua will shine before the prince. Nothing will stop us. But Amara stumbled along, her legs trembling. She turned her goat head once, looking back at the market. She wanted to scream for help, but only a weak bleat came out. Is this how my story ends? She thought sadly. Sold like meat, forgotten like dust. The sun was hot, burning the ground beneath her hooves. Baco walked in silence, thinking of the stew his family would enjoy. After a long walk, they reached his home, a small hut at the far end of the village, near the big river. The yard was poor and simple, with firewood stacked in a corner and a broken bench leaning against a wall. Baco tied Amara to a post in the backyard. Tomorrow, he muttered, you will make a fine stew. Then he went inside to rest. Amara's legs gave way, and she sank to the ground. Tears filled her heart, though her goat eyes could not cry. She stared at the darkening sky. I am finished. Unless a miracle comes, I will die tomorrow. Just then, soft footsteps approached. A boy came out of the hut. He was about 10 years old, barefoot, wearing a torn red shirt. His name was Tommy, Baco's son. He walked slowly toward the goat. His eyes were wide with curiosity. He bent low and stared. This goat is strange, he whispered. Your eyes, they look like human eyes. Amara froze. Hope flickered inside her. She opened her mouth, and for the first time, a faint whisper slipped out. Help me. Tommy gasped. He stumbled back. What? Did you just talk? Amara nodded weakly. Yes. I am not a goat. My name is Amara. My stepmother, she did this to me. Please, help me. Tommy's mouth hung open. His heart pounded fast. A goat that spoke like a girl. It was impossible. Yet he saw the fear in her eyes, and he knew it was true. He looked back at the hut, where his father was resting. Then he leaned close and whispered, Don't worry. I will not tell anyone. I will help you. And in that moment, Amara's heart filled with new strength. For the first time since the curse began, she felt a small light of hope. The night in Baco's compound was quiet except for the sound of the river nearby, whispering as it flowed past stones. The air smelled of wood smoke and damp grass. The moon lit the backyard where the little goat lay tied to a post. But this was no ordinary goat. This was Amara, cursed and trapped. Her heart beat fast as she looked at the boy kneeling beside her. Tommy's big eyes stared at her in wonder. He whispered again, Say something. Amara took a shaky breath. Her goat lips moved strangely, but her voice came out, soft and weak. Please, do not let your father kill me. I am not a goat. I am a girl. Tommy gasped, covering his mouth. His small hands trembled. How can that be? You have hooves, you have horns, but your eyes, he leaned closer. They look like eyes I have seen in people. Amara nodded. Yes. My stepmother, Mama Saad, used dark magic. She wanted to hide me so her daughter could marry the prince. She turned me into this. The boy's mouth opened wide. He scratched his head, confused. Magic. But that is like stories the elders tell at night. It is true, Amara whispered urgently. I heard her plans. She and her friends want to kill my father in 3 nights. If I die here, nobody will stop them. Please, Tommy, you must help me. Tommy's heart raced. He was only 10, but something in Amara's words touched him. He could see the fear in her eyes, the sadness that no goat could carry. He bit his lip and whispered back, I believe you. I don't know how, but I will help you. Amara felt her heart ease just a little. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you. From inside the hut, a rough voice called out. Tommy. Bring more firewood for the hearth. The boy jumped. That is my father, he whispered quickly. Stay quiet. Don't let him hear you. Amara nodded. She lowered her head and bleated softly, pretending to be an ordinary goat again. Tommy ran to fetch firewood. Baco came outside, yawning and scratching his beard. He looked at the goat tied to the post. "Tomorrow," he muttered, "you will make a good stew." He rubbed his stomach and chuckled before going back inside. Amara's heart sank, but she held on to Tommy's promise. The next morning, the sun rose hot and bright. Bako sharpened his knife against a stone, whistling. The sound made Amara's blood run cold. Each scrape felt like it was cutting closer to her life. "Papa," Tommy said suddenly, standing close, "please, don't kill this goat yet." Bako frowned. "Why not? Are you afraid of blood? This is meat for our pot." Tommy shook his head quickly. "No, Papa. But this goat is special. I don't know why, but I feel it. Let's take it to Baba Laja before we do anything. He will know if something is strange." Bako raised an eyebrow. "Baba Laja? The old man with herbs? What has he to do with goats?" "Please, Papa," Tommy begged, his small hands clasped. "Just once. If Baba Laja says it is only a goat, then you can make stew. But if it is not," his eyes darted nervously to Amara. Bako stared at his son for a long moment. The boy's voice shook, but his eyes were steady. Finally, the man sighed. "You and your strange thoughts, boy. Fine. We will go. If only to prove you wrong." Relief flooded Amara. She bleated softly, but this time it sounded almost like a thank you. They set out down the dusty path, the rope tied around Amara's neck. Bako walked in front, the knife still hanging at his waist. Tommy walked beside Amara, whispering under his breath, "Don't worry. We are close. Just hold on." The road stretched long beneath the burning sun. Red dust rose with every step. Birds flew overhead, cawing. The villagers they passed looked curiously at the goat, but none suspected its true secret. After almost an hour, the path narrowed into thick bush. At the end stood a small hut built of red clay, its roof covered with palm leaves. Herbs hung drying from the roof, their smell sharp in the air. Wooden statues of ancestors stood like guards outside the door. Smoke curled slowly upward from a fire. Bako called out, "Baba Laja. Old man, are you here? We need your help." The door creaked, and an old man stepped out. His hair was white like cotton, his skin dark and wrinkled like old leather. But his eyes were sharp, glowing with wisdom. He looked at the goat. He looked at Tommy. Then he looked at Bako. "I have been waiting for this," Baba Laja said softly. Bako frowned. "Waiting for what? This is only a goat my son refuses to let me cook." Baba Laja walked forward slowly. He bent down and touched Amara's horn. The moment his fingers brushed her head, Amara whispered faintly, "Help me." The old man's eyes widened, but he did not step back. Instead, he nodded slowly. "This is no goat," he said. "This is a cursed child." The yard of Baba Laja was silent. The air smelled of herbs and smoke, and the carved wooden statues outside his hut seemed to watch with eyes that were not alive but not dead either. Bako shifted uneasily. "This is foolishness," he muttered, scratching his beard. "Goats don't speak." But Tommy gripped his father's hand. His eyes were bright, his voice steady. "Papa, I told you. She is not a goat. She spoke to me. She begged me for help." Baba Laja crouched before Amara. His old fingers trembled slightly as they touched her horns. "Child," he whispered, "if you can hear me, speak again." Amara's goat lips moved. Her voice came out weak, almost drowned by the sound of the wind. "Please, help me. My name is Amara. My stepmother cursed me." Bako staggered back. His eyes widened, and his mouth fell open. Spirits of the land." He pointed a shaking hand at her. "The goat talks." Tommy was right. Tommy puffed up his chest a little, though his voice was still small. "I told you, Papa. She is not an animal. She is a girl." Baba Laja's sharp eyes softened with sorrow. Yes. I see it now. The curse is strong, but the truth shines through her eyes. He sprinkled white powder on Amara's back. The air around them grew still. The leaves of the palm trees froze in the breeze. Even the smoke from his fire stopped curling upward. Tell me everything, Baba Laja said gently. And so, Amara spoke. In her trembling voice, she told them all, how Mama Saad treated her like a servant, how the villagers admired her beauty, how Sua longed to be queen, and how, on that terrible night, she had followed the women and overheard their plan to sacrifice Okon, her father. She spoke of the chanting, the black smoke, and Mama Saada's furious face. She told how the curse had fallen on her, turning her into a goat. She spoke of being carried to the market, tied like meat, sold for stew, and of Tommy's kind heart that saved her. When she finished, silence hung heavy in the air. Even the birds in the trees seemed to have stopped singing. Bako fell to his knees, clutching his head. Ah. And to think I almost killed you for soup. Forgive me, child. Forgive me. Tommy placed a small hand on Amara's fur. Don't cry, Papa. We still have time to help her. Baba Laja rose slowly to his feet. His face was grave. Yes. There is hope. But it will not be easy. The curse placed upon this child is no ordinary magic. It is the work of witches, tied with envy and blood. To break it, she must pass through fire. Fire. Tommy whispered, his eyes wide. Yes, the old man nodded. The ancestral fire pot. It burns not only the body but the soul. If she is truly pure, she will survive and return to her human form. But if there is any stain upon her spirit, the fire will consume her completely. Amara shivered. Her goat legs trembled. Fire. Already her heart was weak from fear. Could she endure such a test? Bako shook his head. No, old man. That is too dangerous. What if she dies? Baba Laja's eyes flashed. If we do nothing, she will die anyway. Her stepmother plans to sacrifice Okon in 3 nights. If the girl remains in this form, she cannot warn him. And then the land will be stained with blood. The weight of his words fell heavily on them. Tommy knelt by Amara's side. His voice was soft but strong. Amara, don't be afraid. You have survived this long. You are brave. I believe you can survive the fire. Amara looked at the boy. His eyes shone with innocence and courage. A warmth spread through her heart. Even in her lowest moment, someone still believed in her. She took a shaky breath. I will do it, she whispered. I must. For my father. For the truth. Baba Laja nodded. Then it is decided. We will prepare the ritual tonight. The sun dipped low, painting the sky orange and red. Shadows stretched across Baba Laja's hut as the preparations began. He spread a woven mat on the ground and placed Amara upon it. He brought out a large clay pot blackened by age. Inside it burned a flame that did not smoke, fed by herbs and oils. The fire glowed blue and gold, licking the air as though hungry. This, Baba Laja said, is the ancestral fire pot. It was passed down from the elders before me. It has the power to reveal truth and break lies. But it also destroys what is false. Bako trembled as he watched. Old man, are you sure? What if she cannot survive? Baba Laja's eyes never left the fire. If her spirit is pure, she will rise. If not, he did not finish the sentence. Tommy squeezed Amara's rope gently. Be strong. I know you can do it. Amara closed her eyes. Her goat body shook, but inside her heart, she remembered her father's smile, her mother's gentle hands, and the villagers who once called her beautiful. She remembered the truth that had been buried by lies. I am ready, she whispered. Baba Laja lifted her carefully and placed her near the pot. Step into the fire, child. Let the ancestors judge you. The flames danced, blue and gold, reaching for her hooves. The heat pressed against her, fierce and strong. For a moment, fear almost broke her. But then she remembered Tommy's words, "You are brave. I believe in you." With a trembling step, Amara moved forward. Her hooves touched the fire. The world exploded in light. The flames in the ancestral firepot leapt higher, blue and gold tongues twisting like snakes. The glow lit Baba Lodge's yard, casting long shadows of the carved statues that stood around them. It was as though the ancestors themselves had gathered to watch. Amara stood at the edge of the pot, her goat body trembling. The heat licked her fur. Her heart thudded fast in her chest. Bako rubbed his face with both hands. This is madness. She will burn. She will die. But Tommy gripped Amara's rope tightly and shook his head. No, Papa. She will live. I believe in her. Baba Lodge raised his staff. His voice was deep and steady. Silence. The spirits must not be disturbed. This fire does not burn like ordinary fire. It burns truth. If she is pure, she will rise again. If not, she will turn to ash. Amara closed her eyes. She remembered Mama Sada's cruel laughter, Sua's mocking voice, her father's tired smile, and her mother's gentle songs. She whispered inside herself, I must survive. I must save Papa. With trembling legs, she stepped into the pot. The fire roared. Blue light wrapped around her hooves, crawling up her legs. Pain seared through her body, but it was not only pain. It was as though the fire was peeling away something false, burning away the curse that clung to her like chains. Amara. Tommy cried, tears filling his eyes. He wanted to rush forward, but Baba Lodge held him back. Do not touch her, the old man said firmly. She must face this alone. Amara bleated loudly at first, the sound sharp and full of agony. But then, slowly, her cry changed. Her bleat cracked into a human voice. Ah! Her goat horns began to shrink. Her hooves stretched and softened, shaping into hands and feet. Her fur melted into glowing skin. Her body shone like gold in the firelight. Bako's eyes widened. He staggered backward. Spirits of the ancestors. It is true. She is a girl. Tommy's face lit with joy. I knew it. I knew it. The fire grew brighter, wrapping Amara completely. She screamed once more, and then suddenly, the flames died down. Silence fell. There, in the pot, lay a young woman. Her wrapper was torn, her hair loose and wild, but her face was human again. Her wide eyes blinked open, and tears streamed down her cheeks. It was Amara. She gasped, clutching her chest, her voice trembling. I am back. Tommy ran to her side, hugging her tightly. Amara. You did it. You are free. Bako stood frozen, his mouth open. Forgive me, child, he whispered. I almost killed you for stew. I almost cooked you like meat. His voice cracked with shame. Amara shook her head weakly. Do not blame yourself. You did not know. But we must hurry. My stepmother plans to kill my father. She will do it in 3 nights. We cannot waste time. Baba Lodge stepped forward, helping her out of the pot. His old eyes glowed with both pride and warning. You are free, child, but the danger is not over. Your stepmother is strong in wickedness. She will not stop until her plan is complete. You must return quickly and tell your father before the 3rd night. Amara nodded, her face pale but determined. Yes, Baba. I must go. My father must know the truth. The wise elder gave her a small pouch filled with herbs. Take this. If the witches try to stop you, scatter it on the ground. The spirits of the land will protect you. Amara took it with trembling hands. Thank you. Tommy's eyes shone as he looked at her. Will you come back here when it is over? Amara smiled faintly, brushing his cheek with her hand. If I live, yes. You saved me, Tommy. I will never forget you. The boy grinned, his small chest swelling with pride. Bako placed a hand on Amara's shoulder. Go, my daughter. Run fast. Tell your father. Save him. May the ancestors guide your steps. As the sun sank low, painting the sky in red and orange, Amara set out. Her bare feet struck the dusty path. The wind whipped her hair, and sweat ran down her face. But she did not stop. She ran past palm groves, where the trees bent like silent watchers. She crossed small streams, the cool water splashing her legs. She leapt over roots and stones, her breath sharp in her chest. I must reach Papa, she told herself again and again. I must save him before it is too late. Behind her, Baba Laja watched the road with his sharp old eyes. He whispered to himself, the spirits have spared her. But the fight has only begun. The night drew closer. The moon began to rise. And in the compound of Okon, Mama Saad sat quietly, her hands moving as she pounded yam. But her lips curled into a sly smile. In her heart, she thought Amara was gone forever. She did not know that the goat had risen as a girl again. She did not know that truth was already on its way back. The path back to the village stretched long and dusty, but Amara did not slow down. Her bare feet struck the earth hard, kicking up little clouds of red soil. The wind tangled her hair, sweat ran down her face, and her lungs burned, yet she ran. Papa must know the truth, she told herself with every step. If I reach him before the third night, he will live. The sky darkened as the sun slipped behind the hills. The first stars blinked above, and the moon rose full once more, watching like a silent eye. At last, the roofs of the village appeared in the distance. The smoke of cooking fires curled into the air, and the faint sound of drums echoed. Amara pushed herself harder. She reached her father's compound, stumbling through the gate. Her voice broke as she cried out, Papa! Papa! Okon sat outside on a wooden stool, his face lined with worry. For days he had searched the village, asking after his daughter. Nobody had seen her. His heart was heavy with fear. When he heard the voice, he looked up sharply. His eyes widened. Amara. She ran into his arms. They embraced tightly, both trembling. Okon's tears fell into her hair. My daughter. Where have you been? I thought I had lost you forever. Amara sobbed. Papa, I was here, but not as myself. Mama Saad, she turned me into a goat. The neighbors, hearing the cries, began to gather. Men, women, and children crowded the compound, whispering in shock. Turned her into a goat. Is such a thing possible? What wickedness is this? Mama Saad came out, a pestle in her hand. Her face was calm, but her eyes flashed when she saw Amara standing alive. You, she hissed under her breath. Amara pointed at her boldly. Papa, it was Mama Saad. She used dark magic. I saw her in the night with 3 women. They were chanting around a fire, planning to take your spirit in 3 nights. The crowd gasped. Some covered their mouths with their hands. Others shook their heads in disbelief. Mama Saad raised her chin. Her voice was sharp and angry. Lies. All lies. This girl disappeared like a wayward child, and now she returns with foolish stories. Who will believe her? But Amara stood firm, her voice loud and clear. I am not lying. She cursed me, Papa. She turned me into a goat and carried me to the market to sell. A boy and his father saved me and took me to Baba Laja. He broke the curse with the fire of truth. I speak nothing but the truth. The murmurs grew louder. Some villagers nodded, saying, yes, we know Baba Laja. His words are never false. Okon turned to Mama Saad, his face dark with rage. Is this true, woman? Did you do this wickedness? Mama Saada's hands shook, but she forced a laugh. Ah. My husband, will you listen to this foolish girl? Who has ever seen a human turn into a goat? She is lying because she wants to shame me before the festival. But the crowd did not look convinced. One elder stepped forward. His gray beard shook as he spoke. "This is not a matter for shouting in a compound. Let us take it before the chief. Let the judgment be made under the great Irako tree." "Yes," the villagers chorused. "Let the chief decide." Mama Sada's heart thudded. For the first time, fear flickered in her eyes. The next morning, the village square was packed. Men leaned on their walking sticks, women tied their wrappers tightly, and children perched on rooftops to see. At the center stood the great Irako tree, tall and wide, its branches spreading like arms over the people. The chief sat on a carved wooden throne, his red crown shining in the sun. Beside him stood the elders, their staffs in hand. Warriors lined the square, spears glittering. Amara stood barefoot before them, her wrapper torn but her voice strong. She told the whole story again, how Mama Sada had treated her cruelly, how she discovered the midnight ritual, how the curse had turned her into a goat, how she was nearly sold for stew, and how Baba Laja had freed her. The crowd listened, murmuring in shock. Children whispered to each other, a girl turned into a goat. Spirits are powerful indeed. Finally, the chief raised his staff. His deep voice filled the square. "Bring Mama Sad forward." The warriors dragged her to the center. She struggled, but their grip was iron. She glared at Amara with eyes that burned with hatred. "Woman," the chief said, "you have heard the words of this girl. What do you say?" Mama Sad lifted her chin. Her voice was sharp, almost defiant. "My king, this is nonsense. No one can turn into a goat. This girl lies to make herself look important before the festival. She is jealous of my daughter, Sua. I am innocent." The crowd buzzed, some agreeing, others doubting. The chief's eyes narrowed. "Then we shall know the truth. Bring the water of truth." At once, a warrior came forward, carrying a small calabash filled with clear water. The sunlight glinted on its surface. The water was known to reveal lies. No one who drank it could hide falsehood. The chief handed it to Mama Sad. "Drink. If you speak truth, you will be safe. If you lie, the water will show it." Mama Sada's hands shook. Sweat rolled down her face. She looked around wildly, but the warriors held her firm. Slowly, she lifted the calabash and drank. At first, nothing happened. The crowd held its breath. Then her body began to tremble. Her eyes widened. She dropped to her knees, her voice breaking into a scream. "It is true," she cried. "It is true. I am guilty." The square erupted in shouts. She confessed. Wicked woman. Evil stepmother. Mama Sad clutched her chest. Her tongue turned black, and her voice rasped. "Yes, I hated her. Yes, I turned her into a goat. Yes, I planned to give my husband's spirit to the witches. They promised me power. They promised Sua would be queen." The villagers recoiled in horror. Mothers clutched their children. Men spat on the ground. Okon staggered back, his eyes red with fury. "And to think I trusted you. I brought you into my house, and this is how you repay me." The chief's face was stern. He rose, his staff gleaming. "You have betrayed your family. You have betrayed this land. From this day, you are banished. If you return, your life will be forfeit." The warriors dragged her away. She kicked and screamed, but no one pitied her. The villagers shouted after her, "Begone! Begone!" And so Mama Sada's wickedness was revealed. But the shadows of her deeds still lingered. For though she was gone, whispers of her power clung like smoke in the air. Amara stood tall, though her heart still beat fast. She had spoken the truth, and the truth had shone like fire. But deep inside, she knew this was not the end. The festival was coming, and with it, a new storm. The sun rose bright over the kingdom of Zabari. The sky was clear, painted gold and blue, as though the heavens themselves prepared for celebration. Drums echoed across the land, deep and steady, calling people from every corner of the villages. It was the day of the royal choosing festival. Men wore their finest agbada, flowing and wide, stitched with gold threads. Women tied their wrappers in bright colors, indigo, crimson, emerald, and their geli rose high like crowns of fabric. Children ran through the dust, laughing, their tiny feet kicking up clouds as they followed their parents toward the palace square. The palace itself glittered. Its red clay walls had been polished until they shone. Palm fronds were tied to the gates as a sign of peace. Inside, the great courtyard was decorated with carved masks, tall drums, and baskets overflowing with yam, kola nut, and palm wine. The scent of roasted meat and spicy stew filled the air. At the very center stood a wooden throne plated with bronze, where the king would sit with his elders. But all eyes would soon turn to the young prince, Oba. Amara walked with her father through the crowd. Her wrapper was plain, patched in places, but her face glowed with quiet beauty. The villagers whispered as she passed. "Is that not Amara, the one who returned from the curse?" "Yes, the girl who was turned into a goat. Her spirit must be strong. Look at her eyes, they shine like fire." Okon walked proudly beside her, though his heart was heavy. He had almost lost his daughter forever. Now she stood beside him, brave and unbroken. But in another corner of the crowd, Sua stood with her head held high. She wore a wrapper of shimmering gold cloth, beads clinking around her neck, wrists, and ankles. Her face was painted, her lips red like palm fruit, her eyes lined with kohl. Beside her, women murmured, "Ah, Mama Sada's daughter. She looks fine. Maybe the prince will choose her." But some shook their heads. Fine clothes cannot hide an empty heart. Sua ignored them. She looked toward Amara with a cold smile. "Let us see if the prince chooses a ragged goat girl over me," she muttered under her breath. The drums grew louder. The people fell silent. Prince Oba entered the square. He was tall, with smooth dark skin that gleamed under the sun. His shoulders were broad, his step steady like a warrior. He wore a royal robe woven in blue and silver, and a crown of coral beads rested on his brow. At his side hung a sword with a golden hilt, a sign of strength. The crowd bowed low. "Oba! Oba! Oba!" they chanted. The prince raised his hand for silence. His voice was deep and strong. "Today, as our custom demands, I must choose a maiden. But let it be clear, I will not choose only beauty. I will choose truth. I will choose a heart that shines brighter than jewels." The crowd murmured in approval. The king, seated on his throne, nodded. "Bring forth the maidens." One by one, the maidens of the kingdom came forward. Each carried a calabash filled with gifts, cowries, groundnuts, or woven cloth, to show their worth. They bowed before the prince, smiling nervously as the crowd clapped for them. When Sua's turn came, she swayed her hips proudly. Her calabash was filled with bright beads, gold earrings, and fine wrappers. She placed it before the prince and knelt gracefully. "My prince," she said sweetly, her voice practiced. "I am Sua, daughter of Okon's wife. Choose me, and I will bring beauty and riches to your palace." The crowd clapped politely. But when Amara stepped forward, silence fell. She carried no fine cloth, no jewels. Her calabash held only fresh yam, palm oil, and a small wooden carving she had made herself as a child. She knelt before the prince, her hand shaking but her eyes steady. "My prince," she said, her voice clear. "I am Amara, daughter of Okon. I have nothing but truth. I have suffered much, but I still stand. Choose me not for beauty or wealth, but for the truth that I carry in my heart." The crowd buzzed. Some women whispered, "She speaks boldly." Others nodded, "Her words are true. She has faced fire and lived." Prince Oba looked at her for a long moment. His eyes softened. Before he could speak, a cry rang out from the back of the crowd. "Wait!" Everyone turned. It was Baba Laja, the wise elder. He walked slowly into the square, leaning on his staff. His white hair gleamed like silver under the sun. My king, my prince, he said, bowing low. Before the choice is made, let the spirit speak. For not all that glitters is gold. The king nodded gravely. Speak, Baba Laja. The elder turned to the maidens. Let each girl drink from the water of truth, as is our custom when doubt clouds the heart. Only she who is pure will remain unharmed. The crowd roared with approval. A guard stepped forward with the calabash of clear water. The sunlight shimmered on its surface. Sua's face paled. She clenched her fists, whispering under her breath, "No, no." But the prince raised his hand. It is decided. The test will be done. Sua was brought forward first. The calabash was placed in her hands. Her eyes darted from side to side. Sweat beaded on her forehead. The crowd leaned closer, waiting. Amara stood silently, her heart pounding. She knew the truth would soon burn brighter than lies. The drums grew slow and heavy. Dum, dum, dum. Sua lifted the calabash to her lips. Her hands shook so badly that some water spilled onto her wrapper. She swallowed once. For a moment, nothing happened. Then her eyes widened. Her tongue turned dark. She screamed, dropping the calabash. The crowd gasped. She is guilty, someone shouted. She is false, cried another. Sua staggered, her voice breaking. It was Mama Saad. She made me do it. She said the prince must be mine. I. Before she could finish, a sudden gust of wind blew through the square. The calabash shattered, and a deep shadow flickered at the edge of the crowd. Some women screamed and clutched their children. The chief slammed his staff on the ground. Enough. The spirits have spoken. This one carries lies in her heart. The crowd shouted in anger. Cast her out. Cast her out. Prince Oba raised his hand. His eyes were hard. I will not choose one whose beauty hides falsehood. Truth is greater than jewels. Let her be taken away. The warrior seized Sua, dragging her aside as she wailed. The square fell silent once more. All eyes turned to Amara. She stepped forward slowly, kneeling before the prince. Her voice was steady though her heart raced. I am ready, my prince. The guard filled a new calabash with the water of truth and handed it to her. Amara lifted it to her lips. She drank deeply. The crowd held its breath. The water glowed faintly in the sunlight. Amara lowered the calabash. Her body did not tremble. Her tongue did not blacken. Instead, her face shone with light, as though the ancestors themselves had touched her. The crowd erupted. It is her. She is pure. She is true. Prince Oba's eyes glistened. He rose from his seat, walking to stand before her. He lifted her gently to her feet. Amara, he said, his voice clear for all to hear, you are the one I choose. Beauty without truth is nothing. But your truth is beauty itself. From this day, you will be my bride. The crowd roared with joy. Drums thundered. Women ululated. Men raised their spears high. Children danced. Okon fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. My daughter. My child. You have turned suffering into triumph. Amara stood tall, her eyes shining. For the first time, she felt truly free. But as the cheers filled the air, far beyond the forest edge, a dark laughter echoed faintly, low, bitter, and full of promise. Though Mama Saad had been banished, the shadows of her power had not yet faded. The drums of celebration thundered across Zabari long into the night. The villagers danced in circles around the great Irako tree, their voices rising with joy. Women pounded drums with wooden sticks, men beat talking drums with curved sticks, and children clapped their hands, singing songs of praise for Amara. The goat girl who became queen, they chanted. The maiden who walked through fire. Amara smiled shyly as the crowd cheered her name. Her father, Okon, stood proudly by her side, his eyes wet with tears. For years he had seen her work like a servant under Mama Saad, carrying burdens too heavy for her young shoulders. Now the people honored her with songs. Prince Oba sat tall on his carved stool at the head of the square, his eyes fixed on Amara. His heart beat steady but strong. She has faced darkness and lived, he thought. Truly, the ancestors have chosen well. But as the people sang, far beyond the edge of the forest, the night was not still. Deep under the canopy where the moonlight barely touched, a wind howled low. Dark shadows gathered, swirling around the base of an ancient silk cotton tree. A faint red glow pulsed from its roots, spreading across the ground like veins of fire. From the shadows came a whisper. Then another. Then a chorus of voices, cold and sharp like the hiss of snakes. She is chosen, but not safe. She has broken the curse, but the curse is not gone. She belongs to us, her blood will finish the work. The air grew heavy. Bats burst from the branches above, fleeing into the night. The forest seemed to shiver as a dark figure stepped into the faint moonlight. It was Mama Saad. Banished, beaten, and humiliated, but not broken. Her wrapper was torn, her eyes wild, and her voice thick with hatred. You thought you had won, Amara, she hissed into the night. But I still walk, and I still have the shadows. The spirits swirled around her, wrapping her in black smoke. Her tongue flicked like fire as she raised her arms. If I cannot sit in the palace, then I will bring the palace down. Amara will not know peace. Her joy will turn to ashes. The spirits roared with laughter, a sound that rolled through the trees and echoed faintly across the land. Back in the village, Amara lay on her mat, staring at the thatched roof. She could still hear the faint drums outside, though the crowd had begun to fade. Her father snored softly in the next room, exhausted after the long day. But Amara could not sleep. Her chest felt heavy. Her skin prickled. She turned from side to side, trying to calm her racing heart. Finally, she closed her eyes, only to be thrown into a strange dream. She stood in a wide, empty field under the moonlight. The ground was cracked and dry, and the air smelled of smoke. In the distance, a black shadow stretched higher and higher, like a storm cloud rising from the earth. A voice called her name. Amara. She turned and saw a woman in white, glowing faintly. Her face was kind, her eyes bright with sorrow. Who are you? Amara whispered. The woman's voice was soft, yet powerful. I am your mother, Abani. I have watched you from the land of the spirits. Amara gasped. Mama. Is it truly you? The woman nodded slowly. Yes, my child. You have suffered, but you have stood strong. Yet your fight is not finished. The shadows are rising again. Mama Saad walks with them still. If you do not prepare, she will strike, and you may lose everything you have gained. Amara's voice shook. But Mama, I am tired. I have faced fire. I have faced shame. Must I fight again? Abani reached out, touching Amara's hand. Though she was only spirit, the touch was warm and real. Yes, my daughter. Because destiny cannot be stolen. You must fight not only for yourself, but for your father, for the prince, and for this kingdom. Your courage will be the shield of many. Amara wept softly. How will I fight her? She is full of dark power. Her mother's voice was steady. The same way you have always fought, with truth, with courage, and with light. Seek Baba Laja again. He will guide you. And remember, even the darkest night must bow before the morning sun. The field began to fade. The shadow in the distance roared like thunder, and Mama Saada's laugh echoed. Amara jolted awake, sweat dripping from her face. At dawn, she rose quickly. She tied her wrapper and stepped into the cool morning air. Okon looked at her with concern. Daughter, where are you going so early? Amara swallowed hard. Papa, I must go to Baba Laja. I dreamed of Mama, and she warned me. Mama Saad is not finished. Okon's face darkened. He clenched his fists. That woman, even banishment cannot cure her wickedness. Amara placed a hand on his arm. Do not worry. I will not face her alone. The ancestors will be with us. Oko nodded slowly. Then go, my daughter. Go quickly. And may the spirits guide your steps. By mid-morning, Amara reached Baba Lodge's hut. The old man was seated outside, grinding herbs with a stone pestle. His eyes flicked up as she approached, and he nodded as if he already knew why she had come. I saw it in the smoke, he said gravely. The shadows are stirring. Amara sat before him, her voice trembling. Baba, Mama Saad is still alive. She walks with spirits. My mother came to me in a dream. She said I must prepare. Baba Lodge sighed. Yes. The banishment was not the end. A heart as black as hers does not rest easily. She will return with greater power. The palace itself is her target. If she cannot steal your father's spirit, she will try to break your destiny with Prince Oba. Amara's hands shook. What can we do? The elder leaned close. His eyes glowed with sharp light. There is a way. But it will not be easy. You must gather strength, not just yours, but the strength of others. The prince must be warned. The festival has chosen you, but your true test is still ahead. Amara's heart pounded. I am ready, Baba. Tell me what I must do. The old man stood, raising his staff high. Prepare for war, child. Not of spears and swords, but of spirit and truth. The shadows are coming. And only the light you carry can drive them out. Amara swallowed hard. She felt the weight of destiny pressing on her shoulders. Yet somewhere deep inside, the fire of courage still burned. She bowed her head. Then I will fight. No matter what comes, I will not let her win. The morning wind rustled the herbs hanging from Baba Lodge's roof. Somewhere in the distance, a drum beat slowly, like a warning. The battle was not over. The shadows had only just returned. The palace of Zabari stood tall and proud at the heart of the kingdom. Its red clay walls glowed in the sunlight, and its tall wooden gates were carved with stories of past kings and queens, battles won, rivers crossed, harvests blessed by the ancestors. By mid-morning, the drums of the guards echoed across the courtyard, announcing the arrival of Amara. The people at the gates whispered as she passed. Is that not the girl chosen by the prince? Yes, the one who was turned into a goat and returned. Her spirit must be strong. The ancestors are surely with her. Amara kept her head low, though her heart pounded. The pouch of herbs Baba Lodge had given her hung tied around her waist. She touched it often, drawing courage from its presence. When she stepped into the courtyard, she saw Prince Oba speaking with his warriors. He wore a robe of white cotton trimmed with coral beads, and his crown shone under the sun. His hand rested on the hilt of his sword, but his eyes softened when they met hers. Amara, he said, striding forward. Why have you come so early? The festival has ended, and the people rejoice. Is something wrong? She knelt before him, lowering her gaze. My prince, forgive me. I come not with joy, but with warning. Mama Saad still lives. The prince's brow furrowed. The courtyard fell silent as the warriors turned to listen. What do you mean? She was banished. The warriors dragged her into the forest. Amara lifted her head, her voice trembling but firm. Yes, she was banished. But her heart is filled with shadows. She has returned to the spirits. She walks with them still. My mother came to me in a dream, warning me that the danger is not finished. Mama Saad seeks to strike again, not only against me, but against the palace itself. The warriors murmured. One shook his head. How can a banished woman return with power? Another crossed his arms. Dreams are only dreams. Should we fear shadows? But Oba raised his hand for silence. His eyes never left Amara's. I believe her. This maiden has faced fire, curse, and truth. If she says the danger is not over, we must not take it lightly. Amara's eyes filled with relief. Thank you, my prince. Baba Laja told me to come. He said the shadows gather, and only the light of truth can drive them away. You must prepare. The prince nodded slowly. Then we will prepare. That night, Oba called his council of elders. They gathered in the great hall, where bronze lamps burned with palm oil and the walls were lined with carved masks. The air was thick with incense, the drums beating low outside as guards stood watch. Oba stood before the council, his voice strong. Honored elders, I have received a warning. Mama Saad, though banished, still walks with shadows. Her heart is bent on destruction. We must not think the danger has passed. The elders murmured among themselves. One with a long white beard tapped his staff. But the woman confessed her evil. She was cast out. What more can she do? Another shook his head. Do not doubt. Shadows cling to such hearts. If the girl Amara has spoken, then we must take heed. At last, the oldest elder leaned forward. His voice was thin but sharp. Prince Oba speaks wisely. Evil does not rest because we send it away. Evil waits and returns. If Mama Saad seeks the palace, then her strike will come during a time of joy. Beware the day of celebration, for that is when the enemy enters unseen. The hall grew quiet. Oba's jaw tightened. Then we must watch every corner. We must guard Amara, for she is at the center of this storm. Later that evening, Oba found Amara sitting alone in the palace garden. The moonlight silvered her face as she stared at the still water of the pond. Fireflies glowed in the grass, tiny lanterns blinking in the dark. He sat beside her, his robe brushing against hers. For a moment, neither spoke. The night hummed with crickets and distant drums. Finally, Oba said softly, "Do you fear what is coming?" Amara nodded, her fingers twisting in her lap. "Yes, my prince. I fear her, but more than that, I fear losing those I love. She tried to take my father. She will try again. And now, she may try to take you too." Oba turned to her, his eyes steady. "Amara, listen to me. You are not alone. You faced the fire and lived. You faced lies and spoke truth. Whatever comes, we will face it together. Do you trust me?" Her eyes met his, shining with tears. "Yes, I trust you." Oba reached out, gently taking her hand. "Then let us make a vow tonight. No shadow will take what belongs to the light. No darkness will steal what the ancestors have blessed." The wind rustled through the trees as though carrying their words into the night. Far away, in the forest, Mama Saad stood at the silk cotton tree, her eyes blazing red. She raised her arms, chanting as the shadows swirled tighter around her. "They sing songs for her now," she spat, her voice bitter. "They cheer for her in the palace. But let us see how they sing when the palace is ashes. Let us see how they dance when the prince lies cold." The spirits hissed their approval, wrapping her in smoke. The war between shadow and light was drawing near. The palace of Zabari lay quiet under the moon. The drums of celebration had faded, and the people slept in their huts. Only the guards remained awake, pacing the courtyard with spears in hand. Torches burned low, their flames flickering against the red clay walls. Amara lay in her chamber, unable to rest. Though the day had been full of joy, her heart felt heavy. Her mother's warning echoed in her mind, "The shadows are rising again." She rose from her mat and stepped into the courtyard. The night air was cool, and the scent of palm oil lamps lingered. She looked up at the moon, her fingers brushing the pouch of herbs Baba Laja had given her. Suddenly, the torches flickered. The air grew cold, as if the night itself had been pierced by something unseen. A guard shouted, "What is this?" From the darkness at the edge of the courtyard, black smoke began to curl. It slithered along the ground, thick and heavy, like a serpent made of shadow. The guards raised their spears to arms. But before they could move, the smoke rose high and spread wide, covering the palace gates. The air filled with hissing voices, sharp and cruel. "She will fall. She will fall." The warriors thrust their spears into the smoke, but the weapons passed through without harm. One guard cried out as the shadow wrapped around his throat, lifting him off the ground before flinging him aside. The palace erupted in chaos. Prince Oba burst into the courtyard, his sword gleaming in the moonlight. His robe was tied hastily, his eyes blazing with anger. "What trickery is this?" he shouted. The shadow thickened, and from its heart stepped Mama Saad. Her eyes glowed red, her face twisted with hatred. "Oba," she hissed, her voice echoing unnaturally. "You think you can defy me? You think you can choose a goat girl to be your queen? I will turn your palace into a tomb." The warriors gasped. Some stepped back, fear written on their faces. Amara's heart thudded, but she stepped forward, her voice steady. "Mama Saad, your lies have already been exposed. Your wickedness was judged. Why do you still fight?" Mama Saada's laughter cut through the night like a blade. "Because I am not finished, child. You took my power, you stole my place, and you shamed me before the kingdom. But now I will take everything from you. I will break you, and the prince will fall beside you." She raised her arms, and the shadows surged, forming long black claws that slashed at the palace walls. The clay cracked, and dust fell. "Hold fast!" Oba roared, lifting his sword. He slashed at the shadows. The blade glowed faintly as it cut through the smoke, and the spirits shrieked, retreating for a moment. But they returned, thicker and stronger. Amara grabbed the pouch of herbs from her waist. She remembered Baba Lodge's words, "Scatter this when the shadows rise, and the land will fight with you." She tore the pouch open and flung the herbs into the air. The powder scattered in the wind, glowing faintly as it fell to the ground. The earth trembled, and suddenly, vines burst from the soil, wrapping around the shadows and holding them back. The spirits hissed in fury, struggling against the living bonds. Mama Saad screamed. "You dare use the land against me? Foolish girl." She thrust her hand forward, sending a wave of black fire at Amara. Amara cried out, but Oba leapt in front of her, raising his sword. The blade met the fire, and sparks burst into the night. The force threw them both backward, tumbling across the courtyard. The shadows roared, filling every corner. The torches went out, plunging the palace into darkness. The only light came from the faint glow of Oba's sword and the herbs burning on the ground. Amara pushed herself to her feet, her body aching. "Oba," she cried. He rose slowly, gripping his sword, his chest heaving. "I am here." Mama Saada's voice echoed all around them. "You cannot win. My shadows are endless. I will strip the life from you both. And when you are gone, I will sit on the throne you tried to claim." Amara's hands shook, but she lifted her chin. "You may have shadows, Mama Saad. But I have the truth. And truth burns brighter than any darkness." She stepped into the center of the courtyard, her arms raised. Her voice rose, steady and strong. "Ancestors of Zabari. Spirits of light. Stand with us now." The wind shifted. The vines around the shadows glowed brighter. The earth rumbled. The moon broke free of the clouds, pouring silver light into the courtyard. The shadows shrieked, recoiling. Oba lifted his sword high, the blade blazing like fire. Together with Amara's call, the courtyard shone with light. Mama Saad screamed as the brightness struck her. Her body twisted, and the smoke wrapped around her, dragging her backward. "This is not the end," she roared. "I will return." With a final cry, the shadows tore away, vanishing into the night. The air grew still. The torches flared back to life. Silence hung over the courtyard. The guards slowly lowered their spears, their eyes wide. Oba sheathed his sword, his chest still rising and falling heavily. He turned to Amara, his face full of awe. "You stood against her, even in the face of shadows. Truly, the ancestors are with you." Amara's body trembled, but her voice was calm. "It was not me alone. It was the light. It was the land. It was truth." Okon rushed into the courtyard, his face pale with fear. "My daughter. Are you safe?" He held her tightly, tears streaming down his face. "Yes, Papa," Amara whispered, leaning against him. "I am safe, for now." But in her heart, she knew Mama Sada's words were true. This was not the end. The shadows had been beaten back, but they were not destroyed. The morning after the shadow attack, the palace courtyard was heavy with silence. Guards moved about quietly, repairing cracks in the red clay walls where the spirits had struck. The people whispered in fear. "Did you hear the voices? They say Mama Sad returned with shadows. If she can attack the palace, what hope is left for us?" Amara walked among them with her head bowed. Though the light had driven Mama Sad away, she knew the danger was not finished. Her body still trembled with the memory of the black fire, her ears still rang with the hiss of spirits. Prince Oba called the council to the great hall. The elders gathered, their faces stern, their staffs tapping on the ground. Okon sat among them, his eyes fixed on his daughter with pride and fear. Oba rose and spoke. His voice was steady, but fire burned within it. "The shadows came into my father's palace. They struck at my people, at my chosen bride. This cannot continue. We must act before they return stronger." Baba Laja, the wise elder, leaned on his staff. His white hair gleamed in the dim light of the hall. "Yes," he said slowly. "The shadows will return. Mama Sad has not been destroyed. She walks with powers greater than before. If we do not prepare, she will come again, and this time she may not be driven back." Oba frowned. "Then what must we do, Baba?" The elder's eyes flicked to Amara. "The answer lies not in spears or swords, but in the ancestors. Only their blessing can shield you. But blessings are not given freely. They must be earned." The hall grew quiet. Everyone leaned closer. "There is a sacred shrine deep within the forest," Baba Laja continued. "The shrine of the morning sun. It is where our ancestors first placed their light when this kingdom was born. If Amara and Oba can go there, kneel before the fire, and pass the test, the ancestors will grant them protection. Their union will be sealed not only by men, but by spirit." The elders murmured in awe. Okon rose nervously. "But the forest is full of dangers. Wild beasts roam there, and spirits guard the path. Can we send them into such danger?" Baba Laja tapped his staff. "If they do not go, the kingdom will fall. This is the path of destiny. They must go together, for one cannot stand without the other." Oba's jaw tightened. He turned to Amara. "Will you walk this path with me?" Amara's heart pounded, but she lifted her chin. "Yes, my prince. I will not let shadows steal what the light has given. If we must face the test, I am ready." The elder nodded. "Then prepare. You leave at dawn tomorrow. Take nothing but courage, for the ancestors need no gifts but truth." The next morning, the forest loomed tall and thick. Mist clung to the trees, and the cries of monkeys echoed in the branches above. Oba walked at the front, sword at his side, while Amara followed close behind, her wrapper tied firmly, her bare feet brushing the damp earth. Baba Laja had sent no guards, no escorts. "This path must be walked by the chosen alone," he had said. The deeper they went, the darker it became. The trees grew so tall they blocked the sun, and vines hung down like ropes. Strange eyes glowed from the shadows. Amara whispered, "Do you feel it, Oba? The air here is not like outside." "Yes," he said quietly, scanning the trees. "It is heavy, like we are being watched." After hours of walking, they came to a wide river. Its water flowed fast, crashing against sharp rocks. No bridge lay across. Only a fallen tree stretched over the raging current. Oba stepped forward. "We must cross." Amara's eyes widened. "That tree is too narrow. If we fall, the river will swallow us." He held out his hand. "Then we cross together." She took it, her fingers trembling in his. Step by step, they crossed the swaying log, the water roaring below. Halfway across, the log shook violently. Amara gasped. Looking down, she saw hands rising from the water, long, bony hands, pale as ash. "Spirits," she cried. The hands reached for their ankles, clawing and pulling. Oba swung his sword, but the blade passed through them like mist. The spirits hissed and tightened their grip. Amara remembered Baba Lodge's words, "The ancestors need no gifts but truth." She knelt on the log, ignoring the water below, and shouted, "We walk with truth. We will not be pulled down by lies." The spirits screeched. One by one, they vanished, their pale hands sinking back into the river. The log grew steady again. Oba stared at her in wonder. "Your words drove them away." Amara nodded, her breath heavy. Truth is stronger than their grasp. Together, they crossed to the other side. By nightfall, they reached a clearing where a great stone altar stood. Carved into its surface were the faces of ancestors, men and women with calm eyes and fierce brows. At the center burned a small flame, though no wood fed it. Amara and Oba knelt before it. The flame grew brighter, rising taller, glowing with golden light. Then a voice filled the clearing. It was deep and strong, yet many voices spoke as one. "You have come to seek our blessing. But only those who are pure of heart may receive it. Each of you must face what lies within. Only truth will guide you through." The flame split into two, wrapping around them. Amara felt her body lifted, her vision swallowed by light. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the clearing. She stood in her father's compound, but everything was twisted. The sky was black, the ground cracked, and Mama Saad stood before her, smiling cruelly. "You think you are chosen?" Mama Saad sneered. "You are nothing but a goat. No prince will stand with you. Look, your father cannot save you, your mother is gone, and even Oba will leave you when he sees your weakness." Amara's chest tightened. Fear whispered in her heart. But she clenched her fists and raised her voice. "You are a liar. I am not a goat. I am my mother's daughter, my father's pride, and I will never bow to your shadows again." The vision cracked like glass, shattering into light. At the same time, Oba found himself standing in a battlefield. Warriors lay fallen all around, and a dark voice whispered in his ear. "You are a prince, but you are not ready to be king. You will fail your people. You will fail Amara. Better to give her to the shadows now than let her die by your side." Oba gripped his sword tightly. His knees shook, but he raised his voice. "I am a prince, but I am also a man of truth. I will not abandon my people. I will not abandon Amara. Together, we are stronger than fear." The battlefield vanished in a blaze of golden fire. When the light faded, they both found themselves back at the altar. The flame glowed brighter, wrapping around them in warmth. The voices of the ancestors spoke again. "You have faced the test and spoken truth. Darkness cannot hold you. From this day, the light of the ancestors will walk with you." The flame sank into their bodies, filling them with warmth and strength. Amara gasped as a golden mark appeared faintly on her wrist, shaped like a rising sun. Oba looked down at his chest, where the same mark glowed near his heart. They turned to each other, eyes wide. "We carry the same mark," Amara whispered. Oba smiled faintly. "Then the ancestors themselves have bound us together." The altar flame flickered once more before settling into calm. The clearing grew quiet, peaceful. But deep in the forest, far beyond the shrine, Mama Saad felt the light pierce her shadows. She screamed in rage, her body writhing as the spirits hissed in pain. "They think they are strong now," she spat. "Let them enjoy their blessing. I will strike again, harder than before. And this time, not even the ancestors will save them." The sun was rising when Amara and Oba returned from the forest. The golden light spilled over the red earth, painting the land with warmth. Villagers who saw them approaching ran ahead, shouting with joy. "They have returned. The prince and Amara are safe. The ancestors walk with them." Drums beat fast in the palace square as people gathered, clapping and singing. Women ululated, their voices sharp and sweet, while men lifted their hands in praise. Children danced in circles, their bare feet kicking up dust. Okon pushed through the crowd, his face shining with relief. He fell to his knees when he reached his daughter. Amara, my child. You came back to me. Praise be to the ancestors. Amara bent and lifted him up, her eyes filled with tears. Papa, I am safe. The ancestors tested us, but we endured. Their light is with us now. She showed him the faint glowing mark on her wrist. His eyes widened in awe. The people gasped when they saw it. A mark of blessing, they cried. The ancestors themselves have chosen her. Oba stepped forward, his voice deep and steady. People of Zabari, hear me. Amara and I walked into the forest, and we faced the shadows. The ancestors blessed us with their light. We will not bow to fear. We will stand together. The crowd roared with joy. By noon, the palace was filled with food and music. Pots of jollof rice steamed beside roasted goat meat and yam pounded smooth as silk. Calabashes of palm wine were passed around, and the scent of pepper soup rose into the air. The festival of unity had begun. Dancers in bright wrappers leapt and twirled, their anklets jingling with every step. Drummers beat fast rhythms, their hands moving so quickly they blurred. Singers lifted their voices in songs of victory, telling the story of the maiden who was turned into a goat but returned as a queen. Amara sat beside Oba on a carved stool, a wreath of fresh flowers on her head. She still wore her simple wrapper, but it no longer seemed plain. It glowed with dignity, as though the ancestors themselves had woven it. Oba leaned close and whispered, "The people already love you. Look how they sing your name." Amara blushed, lowering her eyes. "It is not me they love, my prince. It is truth. I only carried it." Oba smiled softly. "And that is why you were chosen." But far from the music and laughter, deep in the forest where no song could reach, Mama Saad crouched beneath the silk cotton tree. Her eyes burned red, her lips cracked with fury. Around her, the shadows hissed and writhed, unsettled by the mark of light that now bound Amara and Oba. She spat on the ground. "The ancestors think they can shield her. They think their fire will stop me. But I will break their shield. I will tear it apart until nothing remains." The spirits coiled tighter, whispering in her ears. "Strike the festival. Strike the joy. Strike when their hearts are open." Mama Sada's smile was cruel. "Yes. I will strike the festival of unity. Let them gather, let them dance, let them sing. When their voices rise highest, I will silence them forever." She raised her arms, and the shadows spread like smoke, slithering into the forest floor. The ground trembled as unseen things began to move. Back in the palace square, Amara felt a sudden chill. She shivered, her hand brushing the mark on her wrist. For a moment, it glowed faintly. Oba noticed. "What is it?" She shook her head slowly. "The mark burns. I feel something moving in the distance. As if danger is coming." Oba's jaw tightened. "Then we must be ready." He rose from his stool and called to the warriors. "Stay sharp. Guard every gate. The shadows do not rest, and neither shall we." The warriors bowed, spears clanging in unison. But the villagers, drunk with joy, did not see the fear. They sang louder, danced faster, and poured more wine. For them, the festival of unity was a day of hope. Amara tried to smile, but her heart was restless. She looked up at the sky. The sun shone bright, but in her spirit she felt the stir of storm clouds. That night, when the festival fires burned low and the people began to sleep, Amara sat alone at the edge of the courtyard. She gazed at the stars, her hands folded in her lap. "Mother," she whispered, "if you can hear me, guide me. I feel the darkness still near." A soft wind stirred the leaves, carrying with it the faintest echo of a voice. "Do not fear, my child. The light within you is greater than the shadow around you." Amara closed her eyes, letting the words steady her heart. But even as she prayed, Far away in the forest, Mama Saad was chanting. Her voice rose and fell like a storm wind, calling creatures from the dark earth, weaving spells from blood and bone. The ground shook. The trees bent. Birds fled into the night. Her voice cracked into laughter. Tomorrow, when the sun rises, Zubari will know fear. Let us see if their precious ancestors can save them then. The festival of unity stretched into the night. The square of Zubari glowed with firelight, and the sound of drums still throbbed in the air. Villagers clapped, children sang, and old men stamped their feet in rhythm. Amara sat beside Oba at the head of the square. Though her face wore a gentle smile, her heart remained restless. The mark on her wrist pulsed faintly, like a drumbeat warning of danger. Oba leaned close. "Are you well, Amara?" She nodded slowly, though her eyes scanned the shadows at the edge of the square. "Yes, but something stirs. I feel it in my bones." Before Oba could answer, a wind swept suddenly through the village. The torches flickered, the drums faltered. People looked up in confusion as the night air grew cold. "Why has the wind turned?" someone whispered. "The festival fires are dying," another cried. The flames bent sideways, then snuffed out one by one until only the moon lit the square. The air thickened, heavy and choking. A hiss rose from the darkness. Then another. And another. The villagers froze. Mothers clutched their children. Warriors gripped their spears. From the far edge of the square, shadows began to crawl, black smoke slithering like snakes, stretching long fingers toward the fires. Amara's heart pounded. She knew at once. "Mama Saad," she whispered. The shadows thickened, swirling into a column at the center of the square. From within it, a figure emerged. Her wrapper was torn, her hair wild, but her eyes glowed red like burning coals. "Mama Saad." Gasps filled the air. "She has returned. By the spirits, we cast her out." "Which? Which?" Mama Saad raised her arms, and the voices fell silent. Her laugh cracked across the square like thunder. "You thought you had defeated me. You thought your little mark of light could shield you," she hissed. "Fools. I am stronger than before. I walk with shadows that do not die. Tonight, your joy ends. Tonight, the festival of unity becomes the night of broken joy." She clapped her hands, and the ground split open. From the cracks poured creatures made of smoke and ash, spirits with hollow eyes and jagged mouths. They crawled into the square, shrieking, their clawed hands tearing at the earth. The people screamed. Children wept. Warriors thrust their spears, but the weapons passed through the creatures like mist. "Protect the prince," a guard shouted. But the shadows surged, knocking men aside, hurling spears to the ground. Amara leapt to her feet, her voice rising. "Do not run. Do not give them fear, they feed on it." But panic spread like fire. Villagers scattered, trampling one another as the spirits clawed at their heels. Oba unsheathed his sword, its blade glimmering faintly with ancestral light. He stood tall in the center of the chaos, his voice steady. "Stand your ground. These shadows cannot defeat truth." He slashed at the nearest spirit. The sword cut through it, and the creature screamed before vanishing into smoke. The people gasped. "The prince's blade. It burns them." Mama Sada's eyes narrowed. "So, the ancestors still favor you. Let us see how long that lasts." She stretched out her hands, and a wave of black fire shot across the square. The ground shook as flames raced toward Oba. Amara darted forward, raising her wrist. The golden mark on her skin blazed like the rising sun. The fire struck it and split apart, hissing as it vanished into the air. Gasps rose again. "She carries the ancestors' mark. The spirits cannot touch her." Amara's voice rang out, firm and fierce. "People of Zubari, do not fear. The shadows are lies, they only live if you feed them with terror. Stand with us." The villagers hesitated, trembling. But slowly, one by one, they drew courage from her words. Mothers pulled their children close and stopped running. Warriors lifted their spears again, circling to guard the square. The drums, long silenced, began to beat again, one rhythm, strong and steady. Dum, dum, dum. The spirits hissed angrily, shrinking from the sound. Oba turned to Amara, his eyes blazing. Together. She nodded. Side by side, they stepped forward. Oba's sword glowed brighter with each swing, cutting down the creatures of shadow. Amara raised her hands, her mark shining like fire, scattering the smoke wherever it touched. Mama Saad shrieked in fury. No. I will not be defeated by a girl and a prince. She raised both hands, summoning a towering column of black smoke. It twisted and stretched, forming a massive figure with horns and wings of ash. The ground shook as it roared, its voice like thunder. The villagers fell to their knees in terror. Even the warriors froze. Amara's knees weakened, but she forced herself to stand tall. Oba, she whispered, this is her strongest strike. Oba's grip tightened on his sword. Then this is where we end it. The giant shadow creature raised its claw, sweeping it down to crush them both. Oba lifted his sword to block, but the force threw him to the ground. He groaned, his blade slipping from his hand. Oba! Amara cried, rushing to him. Mama Saad laughed, her voice filled with triumph. You are finished. The goat girl cannot save you now. But Amara's mark burned hotter than ever. She stood over Oba, lifting both arms. The golden light spread from her wrist, wrapping her body in fire. Ancestors, she cried. This is not my battle alone, it is the battle of truth against lies, of light against darkness. Stand with us now. The mark flared like the sun itself. A beam of golden fire shot upward, striking the shadow creature in the chest. It screamed, twisting as the light burned through its smoky form. Mama Saad shrieked, clutching her head. No. Stop. You cannot take them from me. The light grew brighter, filling the square. The people covered their eyes, but they did not run. They felt the warmth, the strength, the truth. With a final roar, the shadow creature burst apart, scattering into the night sky like ash on the wind. The square fell silent. The torches relit themselves, flickering warmly. The drums stopped, then began again, slow at first, then faster, triumphant. Oba rose slowly, leaning on his sword. He turned to Amara, his eyes wide with awe. You called the ancestors themselves. Amara's body trembled, but she smiled weakly. No. They were always here. I only asked, and they answered. The villagers surged forward, cheering, clapping, ululating. Amara. Oba. Light has won. The shadows are broken. But Amara's heart knew the truth. Mama Saad had been defeated again, but her voice still echoed faintly in the wind. This is not the end, not yet. Amara shivered. She knew the battle was far from over. The night after the Festival of Unity was heavy with silence. Though the people of Zabari sang of victory, Amara could not rest. The mark on her wrist still glowed faintly, pulsing as though it carried a message she could not yet hear. She sat in the palace garden, watching the moon cast silver ripples across the pond. The air smelled of hibiscus and wet earth after the battle. Yet her heart was uneasy. Oba came to her, his steps quiet. He sat at her side, his robe brushing hers. You should be resting, Amara. You carried the light of the ancestors through fire itself. You must be weary. She shook her head. I cannot rest. Her voice lingers. Even in defeat, Mama Sada's laughter echoes in the wind. I fear this is not the end. Oba frowned, his jaw tightening. Then we must ask the one who knows more than us. Amara turned to him, puzzled. Baba Laja. Yes, Oba said firmly. If anyone understands why she cannot be destroyed, it is him. At dawn, they walked to Baba Laja's hut. The old man was already awake, grinding herbs, his sharp eyes glinting with knowledge. When he saw them, he nodded slowly, as though he had been waiting. I felt it, he said before they spoke. The square shook, the shadows screamed, and the ancestors' fire rose. You stood strong. But you did not finish her, did you? Amara lowered her gaze. No, Baba. She fled, though the light burned her. Why can she not be destroyed? The elder leaned heavily on his staff. He motioned for them to sit. Because, my children, Mama Saad is no longer only herself. When she gave her heart to the shadows, she tied her soul to theirs. She is bound by a covenant older than this kingdom. To destroy her fully, you must break that bond. Until then, she will always return. Amara's breath caught. Then how do we break it? Baba Lodge's eyes narrowed. You must know the truth of your own bloodline first. She frowned. My bloodline. The elder nodded. Child, did you think the ancestors marked you by chance? No. You carry the fire of your mother's people, keepers of the shrine of the morning sun. Abani, your mother, was the last daughter of that sacred line. That is why she came to you in dreams. That is why you stood against fire and lived. You are the flame they have been waiting for. Amara gasped, her eyes wide. My mother, she never told me. She could not, Baba Lodge said softly. The shadow cult has long hunted your bloodline. If they had known what you were, they would have taken you as a child. But destiny cannot be hidden forever. The light has found you, Amara. Oba reached for her hand, his grip steady. Then she is chosen not just for me, but for the kingdom itself. The elder's gaze turned grave. Yes. And that is why Mama Saad will never stop. She knows if you live, her shadows will end. To break her covenant, you must face her not in the village, not in the palace, but at the root of her power, the Cave of Whispers. Amara's heart pounded. The Cave of Whispers. Baba Lodge's voice lowered. It lies beyond the forest, at the edge of the river where the dead are said to cross. Few who enter return. It is there that the shadow spirits gather, where Mama Saad draws her strength. Only by carrying the fire of the ancestors into that darkness can you sever her bond forever. The words hung in the air like heavy stones. Amara's voice trembled. But Baba, how can I face such a place? I am only one girl. The elder leaned forward, his voice sharp. Do not belittle the flame, child. Even the smallest candle pushes back the night. You have already stood against her in the square. You carry more than your own strength, you carry truth, and truth walks with armies unseen. Oba placed his hand on hers. And you will not go alone. Wherever you walk, I will walk. Whatever you face, I will face. Together we are stronger. Baba Lodge's eyes softened, though his voice stayed stern. So it must be. The prince and the flame. Two paths bound into one. But remember, the cave tests not the body, but the soul. It will show you fears, lies, and temptations. Only truth will carry you through. If you falter, the shadows will claim you. Amara swallowed hard. Then we must not falter. That night, Amara dreamed again. She stood in a wide, dark plain, the air thick with whispers. Shapes moved at the edge of her sight, hissing her name. Amara. You will fail. You are only a goat. She covered her ears, but the whispers grew louder, wrapping around her like chains. Then a light appeared before her, a soft, golden glow. Her mother's face appeared, calm and shining. My child, Abani said gently. The path ahead will be hard. But remember, shadows cannot kill the flame. They can only hide it for a while. Trust the mark on your skin. Trust the truth in your heart. And trust the bond you now share. Amara whispered, tears on her cheeks, Mama, will I see you again? Her mother's face faded slowly into the light. When the battle is done, I will be waiting. Amara awoke with tears still wet on her face. She sat up, clutching her wrist where the mark glowed faintly. Oba stirred beside her mat, watching her with quiet eyes. Another dream. She nodded. Yes. My mother spoke. She told me to trust the mark, to trust truth, and to trust you. Oba smiled faintly. Then I swear I will not fail that trust. She looked at him, her heart steadying. Then together we will go to the Cave of Whispers. We will end this. Outside, the first rooster crowed. The dawn was near. But in the far forest, Mama Sada's laugh echoed as she gathered her shadows. She, too, was preparing for the final battle. The dawn sun rose, casting a pale orange light over the kingdom of Zubari. Yet the warmth of day did not ease the chill that clung to Amara's heart. Today was the day she and Oba would walk into the Cave of Whispers. The villagers gathered as they set out. Some offered calabashes of water, some pressed amulets of protection into their hands. Children clung to Amara's wrapper, whispering prayers for her return. Do not fear, she told them softly, though her own knees trembled. Truth is stronger than lies. We will come back. Oba walked at her side, his sword strapped across his back, its hilt gleaming faintly in the light. The people look to you now, he murmured. Your courage gives them courage. She glanced at him. And if mine falters? He smiled gently. Then mine will hold until yours returns. The path to the cave wound through the forest. The deeper they went, the darker the trees grew. Branches twisted overhead, blocking out the sun, and vines hung like snakes waiting to strike. Birds that had sung near the village were silent here. The only sound was the crunch of their footsteps and the faint hum of insects that seemed to follow them. After hours of walking, they came to the river's edge. The water was dark, moving slow, as if it carried secrets too heavy to flow freely. This is it, Oba said quietly. Baba Laja told us, the river of the dead. Beyond it lies the cave. Amara's chest tightened. She stepped closer to the water and froze. The surface rippled, though no stone had been thrown. Then faces began to appear, shadows of the lost, eyes empty, mouths whispering soundless words. Her heart pounded. Oba, do you see them? Yes, he said, his jaw tightening. Do not listen. They are echoes, nothing more. But the whispers grew louder in her ears. Amara, goat girl, unworthy, you will fail them all. She clutched her ears, her breath quickening. They know my fear. Oba grasped her hand firmly. Then we answer them with truth. Say it aloud, Amara. Who are you? Her voice shook. I am Amara. Daughter of Abani and Okon. Marked by the ancestors. The whispers hissed. The faces faded back into the water. Amara gasped, her chest rising and falling. Oba squeezed her hand. Do you see? Truth drives them away. We can cross. They stepped onto the wooden bridge that stretched across the river. The boards creaked, and the water below churned angrily, as though trying to swallow them whole. Halfway across, the air turned icy cold. Then, without warning, a figure rose from the river, towering above them. It wore a cloak of water and mist, its face shifting like a mirror. The voice that came from it was deep and booming. Who dares cross the river of the dead? Oba drew his sword. We come in the name of truth. The spirit's eyes narrowed. Truth? Many claim it. Few carry it. Answer, or be consumed. Its watery face twisted into that of Amara's father. Why did you not save me when your mother died? Why did you stay silent under Mama Sada's cruelty? Amara staggered back, her throat tight. Papa. The figure leaned closer. You let her beat you. You let her plan my death. You are weak. Tears stung Amara's eyes. Her knees buckled, but Oba's voice cut through. Amara. Look at me. That is not your father, it is a shadow wearing his face. She trembled. But his words. His words are lies, Oba said firmly. Your father wept when you returned. He called you his strength. Do not let shadows twist the truth. Amara clenched her fists, her tears falling. She lifted her chin and shouted at the figure, You are not my father. I am not weak. I endured, and I rose. That is the truth. The spirit let out a wail, its body shattering into spray before sinking back into the river. The bridge steadied. Amara collapsed against Oba, breathless. It felt so real. He stroked her hair gently. The cave of whispers begins before we even reach its mouth. But you did not fall. You spoke truth, and truth shattered the lie. At last, they stepped onto the far bank. Before them loomed the cave of whispers. It rose like a wound in the earth, jagged rocks forming a dark mouth that seemed to breathe. Cold air poured from it, carrying faint voices that drifted on the wind. Come in, come in. The ground around it was barren. No grass grew, no birds sang. Even the trees leaned away, as if they feared the cave's hunger. Oba lifted his sword, its glow dim in the thick darkness. This is it. Amara clutched her wrist where the mark pulsed, steady as a heartbeat. Once we enter, there may be no turning back. Oba met her eyes. Then we go forward together. Hand in hand, they stepped inside. The cave swallowed them whole. The walls glistened with damp, streaked with black veins that pulsed faintly like living flesh. The whispers echoed louder, bouncing from every direction. Amara. Oba, your love is doomed, your courage will fail, the shadows will feast. Their footsteps echoed against the stone. Shadows flitted at the edge of their vision, never quite solid, never quite gone. Oba raised his sword high. Its light pushed the darkness back, but only a little. Stay close, he said. Amara nodded, though her throat was dry. I am here. They walked deeper. The air grew heavier, pressing on their chests. The whispers sharpened, turning into voices they knew. A woman's laugh rang out, the cruel, familiar laugh of Mama Saad. Come, goat girl. Come and die where the shadows are strongest. Amara's skin prickled, but she forced her steps forward. Let her laugh. The truth will silence her. Oba's voice was steady, but his eyes searched the shifting walls. She waits for us. Every step we take, she grows bolder. But so do we. At last, they reached a wide chamber. A pool of black water shimmered at its center. From its depths rose faint shapes, faces screaming, hands clawing, all trapped beneath the surface. The whispers filled the chamber until they became a roar. The mark on Amara's wrist burned hotter, and Oba's sword glowed brighter. Amara swallowed hard. This is only the beginning. Oba tightened his grip on her hand. Then let us begin. The chamber of the cave of whispers pulsed with darkness. The pool at its center bubbled, and the cries of the trapped spirits echoed like thunder. Amara clutched her wrist, the ancestral mark burning as though it knew what was coming. Beside her, Oba lifted his glowing sword. Stay close, he whispered. Before she could answer, the black pool erupted. A towering wave of smoke and shadow shot into the air, twisting, writhing. The pool boiled until the cave shook. From the darkness rose a figure, taller than 10 men, with wings like torn cloth and horns of jagged stone. But at its heart stood Mama Saad. Her eyes glowed red, her arms stretched wide. Shadows wrapped around her like armor, and her voice was sharp as broken glass. So, you have come at last, she hissed. The goat girl and the prince. Did you think you could challenge me in my own domain? Here, the shadows obey only me. She raised her hand, and tendrils of smoke lashed toward them. Oba swung his sword, the light burning through the first wave. Amara's mark flared, scattering the next. But more tendrils came, faster, stronger, wrapping around the walls and ceiling like a web. The voices began again, whispering from every corner. Amara, you are still a goat, no prince will ever choose you. Oba, you are weak, your crown will crumble. The words cut deep, sharper than any spear. Amara pressed her hands over her ears, but the whispers drilled into her mind. Her knees buckled. Oba. I hear them. They're in my head. He grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. Amara. They are lies. Speak the truth and they will fade. She gasped, shaking. But what if they are right? What if I am still nothing? Oba's eyes burned. Look at me. You are not nothing. You are Amara, daughter of light. You have already broken her curse. That is truth. Say it. Tears streaked Amara's face as she lifted her chin and shouted, I am Amara. I am not a goat, I am a child of the ancestors. Her voice echoed like thunder. The shadows hissed and recoiled, and the whispers faded for a moment. Mama Saad snarled. Bold words for a girl who crawled like an animal. Let us see how bold you are when you face your deepest fear. She clapped her hands, and the cave transformed. Amara blinked. The walls vanished. She stood alone in a wide, barren field. The sky was red, the ground cracked. All around her lay broken bodies, villagers she knew. Okon, her father, lay motionless. Even Oba's sword lay shattered. And from the far side of the field, a voice whispered, This is your future. Because of you, all will die. Amara staggered back, her throat dry. No, no, this is not real. But then she heard Oba's voice, faint, as though from far away. Amara. Do not believe it. Fight it with truth. Her eyes filled with tears. She forced herself to shout, This is not my future. The ancestors do not mark me to destroy, but to protect. I will not let this vision chain me. The red sky split open, and the illusion shattered. She was back in the cave, gasping, her body trembling. Oba caught her before she fell. You did it. You broke her illusion. But Mama Saad only laughed. Her voice shook the cave. Foolish girl. Do you think it ends so easily? Now it is the prince's turn. She pointed, and the smoke wrapped around Oba, pulling him into the darkness. Oba! Amara screamed. She reached for him, but the shadows yanked him away. Oba staggered into a vision of his own. He stood in the royal court, but the throne was empty. The people whispered around him. He is too young. He is unworthy. He cannot protect us. His father's ghostly face appeared, stern and heavy. You are not strong enough to rule, my son. You will lead your people to ruin. Oba dropped to his knees, his sword slipping from his hand. No, maybe they are right. Maybe I am not enough. But then Amara's voice pierced through the vision. Oba. Remember who you are. You are not chosen by chance, you are chosen because you carry truth. His chest heaved. He clenched his fists and shouted, I am Oba, son of kings. I will not rule by fear, but by justice. That is my strength. The illusion shattered. Oba stumbled back into the chamber, his sword glowing brighter than before. Mama Sada's fury shook the cavern. Enough. If lies cannot break you, then let death do it. She raised both hands. The shadows swirled, forming a monstrous beast, half serpent, half bird, with wings of ash and fangs of stone. Its roar made the earth tremble. The villagers' trapped faces screamed from its body, clawing to be free. Oba lifted his sword. Amara's mark burned like fire. Side by side, they faced the beast. Oba's voice was steady. Together. Amara nodded. Together. The monster lunged. Oba swung his sword, the light slicing across its wing. Amara raised her hands, golden fire bursting from her mark, striking the beast's chest. It shrieked, staggering, but did not fall. Mama Saad poured her power into it, her body trembling with rage. You cannot win. The shadows are endless. Amara's voice rose like a flame. No, Mama Saad. Shadows may be many, but truth is one, and it is stronger. Her mark exploded with light, brighter than the moon. Oba drove his sword into the beast's heart, and together the light and blade pierced it. The monster roared, split apart, and collapsed into smoke. Mama Saad screamed as the shadows ripped from her body. Her form flickered, her eyes burning with fury. This is not the end. Even if you cut me down, the covenant binds me still. Her body dissolved into black smoke, vanishing into the cracks of the cave. The ground shook. The pool bubbled violently. The whispers rose into a storm, screaming with fury and pain. Oba grabbed Amara's hand. "The cave is collapsing, we must get out." They ran, the cave trembling around them, rocks falling from the ceiling. The whispers clawed at their ears, but the light of Amara's mark lit the path. At last, they burst into the open night, gasping, the cave collapsing behind them in a thunderous roar. They fell to their knees on the grass, trembling, sweat pouring down their faces. The forest was silent. Oba looked at her, his chest heaving. "We face the trial, but she is not gone yet." Amara's mark still glowed faintly, warning her. She nodded. "The covenant still binds her. One final step remains." The night air was still when Amara and Oba staggered from the cave. Behind them, the Cave of Whispers lay in ruin, its dark mouth sealed by fallen rock. Yet the mark on Amara's wrist still pulsed, faint but insistent. Oba wiped his brow, his chest heaving. "We destroyed her monster. We brought down her shadows. Why does the mark still burn?" Amara stared at the glowing lines on her skin. "Because Baba Laja was right. Mama Saad is bound by something deeper, a covenant older than this kingdom. Until we break it, she cannot be destroyed." The wind shifted, carrying a sound that chilled their bones, a laugh, low and sharp, echoing through the forest. Mama Saada's voice. "You think a cave can bury me? Foolish children. My soul is woven into the covenant. You may strike me 100 times, but I will rise again. Until you offer what I offered, I will never fall." Her voice was everywhere, in the trees, in the ground, in their very bones. Oba gripped his sword tightly. "Show yourself, coward." The shadows stirred. From the broken earth before them, Mama Saad rose once more. But this time her form was thin, ragged, and flickering. Smoke leaked from her body, as if the light had already wounded her deeply. Yet her eyes still burned. "You cannot end me without ending yourselves. I gave blood to bind the shadows. What will you give, girl?" Amara stepped forward, her heart steady despite the terror in her chest. "I will give what you never could, truth. Light. And sacrifice that is not born of greed, but of love." Mama Saad hissed, her smoke writhing. Big words for a girl who bleated like an animal. Oba's hand touched Amara's shoulder. "You are not alone. Whatever comes, we face it together." The ground rumbled. A circle of fire burst open around them, trapping them inside. In its center rose a stone altar, cracked and ancient, carved with symbols of the Shadow Covenant. The air smelled of blood and ashes. Mama Saada's voice thundered. "This is the altar where I bound myself. If you wish to undo it, you must make your own offering. But know this, the shadows take what they are given. They do not return it." Amara's knees shook. Baba Laja said the covenant could be broken. But how? Her mother's voice came softly in her mind. "Child, light must meet darkness at its root. The shadows feed on blood given in greed. But they cannot stand against a heart that gives in love. One must step forward, not to take, but to give." Tears filled Amara's eyes. She understood. She turned to Oba. "It must be me. I carry the mark. The fire rests in my blood." He seized her hand, his grip fierce. "No. If you step onto that altar, they may take you. I will not lose you." She looked into his eyes, her voice trembling. "Oba, my life has been shaped by cruelty and lies. If my blood can break them, then my suffering has meaning. But listen, love does not end in shadows. If I fall, let my truth remain." He shook his head, his jaw tight with pain. "Do not speak as though you are leaving me." She touched his face gently. "Then walk with me, and let us give together." Oba's eyes widened. "Together?" "Yes," she said firmly. "The covenant was made with greed, by one heart alone. Let it be broken by two hearts bound in truth. Not blood given in fear, but in love." Oba's chest rose and fell. Then he nodded slowly, his grip tightening. Then we give together. They stepped onto the altar. The fire roared higher, shadows swirling around them. Mama Sada's form screamed, twisting violently. No. You cannot. The covenant takes life, it does not give it back. Amara raised her wrist. The mark glowed like the sun. Oba lifted his sword, its light joining hers. Together, they pressed their hands to the stone altar. At once, the shadows shrieked, rushing forward like a storm. Black tendrils whipped around them, clawing, burning, trying to tear them apart. The pain seared through their bodies, but they did not pull back. Amara cried out, her voice breaking. I give not for power, but for truth. Oba shouted, his voice shaking the earth. I give not for greed, but for love. The altar cracked. Golden fire erupted from the mark on Amara's wrist and from the blade in Oba's hand. The two lights twined together, spiraling upward in a column that split the sky. The shadows wailed, their forms burning away. Mama Sad screamed, her voice shrill with rage and despair. No. I offered blood. I made the pact. You cannot undo it. Amara's voice rang out, fierce and clear. Your blood was given in greed. Ours is given in love. That is why it breaks you. The golden fire engulfed Mama Sad. Her scream echoed once, twice, then faded into silence. Her form crumbled into ash, carried away by the wind. The fire died down. The altar cracked and collapsed into dust. The circle vanished, leaving only stillness and the sound of the night birds returning to the forest. Amara fell to her knees, her body trembling. Oba caught her, holding her tight. Amara. Speak to me. She lifted her face weakly, her eyes glowing faintly with the last trace of ancestral fire. She is gone. The covenant is broken. Her wrist mark faded slowly, leaving only a faint scar where the light had been. Oba held her close, his tears falling onto her hair. You are alive. Thank the ancestors, you are alive. The villagers, who had gathered at the forest's edge, erupted into cries of joy. Amara. Oba. The shadows are gone. The kingdom is free. Baba Laja stepped forward, his eyes wet with pride. The covenant has been broken, not by fear, but by love. From this day, let it be remembered, shadows cannot rule where truth and love walk together. That night, the kingdom of Zabari lit fires across the hills. The people danced, sang, and praised Amara and Oba. But as the drums echoed and the laughter rang out, Amara looked to the sky. She whispered softly, Mama. I kept the flame.